information session went across and beyond the membership network. So for those that might be hearing about the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the first time, or does not know what we really do, the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry is a member-funded organization established with the sole objectives of supporting businesses, networking, and ensuring that their activities grow in the overall. So the Abuja Chamber of Commerce is made up of 4 centers, in which the BEST Center is one of it. The BEST Center is an acronym for Business Entrepreneurship Skills and Technology Center. And the objectives of the center is to provide capacity, information for young Nigerians and SMEs. We pride in ensuring that we support SMEs from small to grow to medium, from medium to grow to large, and also to provide capacity for people to be self-sufficiency. We are running this information session on agro-products, especially as it relates to certification. This is due to popular demand. We have a team of SMEs that are into the agricultural products value chain. And most of the challenges that some of them experienced is how to get the right information, how to know the right people, how to go through the right process in order to be able for people to get the required certification. I'm getting some messages on my microphone. Am I not audible enough?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think it's probably his network or the person's network. Thank you, ma'am.
We can hear you.
Okay.
The audio is okay.
Thank you. Okay. So, picking from where I stopped, this information session is due to popular demand. We're expecting nothing less than 60 people on this call, but at least we have had 43 rejoin. I'm sure they will join us along the line. So it's basically for people that are into the agricultural products, the value chain, and a lot of people are also looking into the international market, which is very good for us. This is to promote our businesses and our enterprises. Also considering the fact that Nigerian-made products, African-made products, especially the agricultural products, are of high demand, even in the international market. And these certifications are one of the criteria whereby our products could enter into the international market. So we spoke with our partners and relevant people in this field to bring this information to as many as possible people that are interested in this, and for them to be able to take advantage of this opportunity, to know the right people to talk to, and to know what exactly they need to do in order to get these certifications and improve or increase in the delivery of their products or their services. So without taking much of our time, we'll just go into the program. I think that's what I've just said can stand as the opening remarks on behalf of the president of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, on behalf of the team, the management team, on behalf of the Director General, which is unavoidably absent. She's on transit. So we bring our remarks, and we welcome you for coming and also for logging into this information session. And we hope at the end of the day, we'll be able to meet the objectives of this program and also move forward from here. Thank you very much. Without so much time taking, we'll just go into the first presentation. The first presentation is going to be taken by our partner. We have our partner, NISAT. NISAT is a consulting firm, is a leading conformity assessment agency, certification agency. And the objective of NISAT is to build sustainable and rewarding relationships across the agricultural value chain that will add value and make a difference in the society. When we talk about society here, we mean within our local society and also in the international society. So having said that about NISAT, I would like to bring in the speaker from NISAT hand, Mr. Tobiloba, to take us on this session on agro-products processing certification, sustainable and food safety. This will also include information on how to get organic certification and other certifications as relevant to agricultural products in Nigeria. So I will leave the floor open for you now, Toby.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Tino. I hope I'm audible enough.
I can hear you clearly.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go
Yes,
on.
we can hear
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe I can just also turn on my video for some time. Okay, so thank you very much once more, Madam Tino. My name is Toby Raji, and I'm from NISAT, and we are here to discuss on sustainable standards and food safety standards that can help people within the ACCI purview in order to access the international market. So, like I said, this would be basically a very short presentation so that I don't bore us with a lot of technicalities, but I mean, through our questions, we can be able to further expand the scope, the horizon on what certification is generally and what certification we are required, or should I say advised, in order for us as agro-processors to access the international markets. So I would like to share my screen now. Host, kindly enable me to do that. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so this session is about sustainable and food safety standards. It's about what is sustainable standards, what are food safety standards, what is their relevance, what are even the type of sustainable standards that we have globally, what are the types of food safety standards that exist, what is the difference between standards and regulation, why do we need standards, and some of this information. So this is what we'll be discussing within this very short period. And before we proceed to the main proper, let me just very quickly tell us briefly about NISAT. So NISAT is it's made up of two subsidiaries, basically. So we have the NISAT Expert Consulting Limited, and we also have the NISAT Limited. NISAT Expert Consulting Limited is the arm of NISAT that does training, consultancy, and implementation services for international standards, international agricultural standards, for standards such as organic, such as global gap, such as food safety standards like HACCP, like ISO 22000, and a host of others. So what NISAT Expert Consulting Limited does is basically to help with the facilitation of these standards, to help train so that people understand, to help implement, and to also provide consultancy services. Why NISAT Limited is the arm of NISAT that have partnership with ECOSAT. So we have formed a partnership with ECOSAT in order to be able to certify standards, in order to be able to certify for standards through our control methods, such as audit, such as sample collection, and a host of others. So what NISAT Limited does is that they, in their through their research, they want to be able to reduce the amount it costs in order to get organic certification or global gap certification, because we realize that since ECOSAT is not domiciled in Nigeria, if we want to bring people from wherever they have, maybe South Africa, maybe France, the costs affect how much the producers spend on getting certification. So that's why we have now entered that partnership whereby we have people in Nigeria that can carry out some of these activities on behalf of ECOSAT. And that would not lead to them spending as much as they would be able to, as they would have spent if we don't have these people in Nigeria. So we are a product of research and have a partnership with ECOSAT that's headquartered in France, as I said earlier. ECOSAT has been operational for over 30 years with over 60,000 clients. And we have partnership with ECOSAT. These are some of the countries where ECOSAT is. They are in Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, France, Romania, Serbia, just to mention a few. And in Africa, they are in Burkina Faso, Madagascar, Morocco, South Africa, Tunisia, and they are in Nigeria via partnership with NISAT. So they are not in Nigeria as ECOSAT, but they are in Nigeria through their partnership with ECOSAT. So that is just to briefly talk about what we do so that I don't waste too much of our time. But before we go on, I would like to speak on some of these certification labels. Because when we talk about certification, it is the labels that are on the products that shows that they have actually undergone the process of certification and have been approved. So for instance, now, this is the first one here is the USDA logo. The USDA means the United States Department of Agriculture. This is their organic logo. So through our partnership with ECOSAT, we are able to offer certification services in order to be certified according to this standard. So the USDA logo would enable you to access the US market. The next one is the ECOSAT organic standard. That is for the EU, the European Union. We also have fair trade. We have ISO 22000, HACCP, that is hazard analysis and critical control points. But basically what I just want to point out here is that these labels are the proof of compliance. It is only an operator that has been certified according to any or all of these standards that can actually use them. So if you are not certified according to them, you are not allowed to use them. So for instance, even if you are complying with organic standard, if you have not gotten that certificate, you are not allowed to trade your product with that logo on it. So that is the difference between getting and being compliant with a standard and actually getting certified. So these are just things to know for background information. Now let's go to the main session for today. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate my sorry, I don't know why this is. Okay, sustainable standards. Sustainable standards. Before then, let's just define what sustainable agriculture is, as the definition that we have provided here. It's one that over the long term enhances the environmental quality and the resource based on which agriculture depends, provide basic human food and fiber needs, economically viable, and enhances quality of life for farmers and society. Please let's take note of this, of some key points here. We see long-term, over long-term, environmental quality. We also see basic human food and fiber needs, economically viable, enhances quality of life. Now, for sustainable agriculture, from which sustainable standards are brought up, it is a system of agriculture that enhances that there is, should I say, continuity over a long period of time. It is concerned about the way agriculture is being done in such a way that over the long period of time, it is still sustainable. We are still able to do it. I will give you an instance. In the situation whereby we are conducting our organic agriculture, we are conducting agriculture, and over time, maybe after 5 or 10 years, the land is not fit for use again. That means that somewhere along the line, maybe intentionally or we have incorporated practices that doesn't comply with sustainability into it. Maybe from the way we apply chemicals, from the way we spray, they have gone to destroy the critical components of the soil or of the farm. And as such, they are not, the land is no longer sustainable for use. That means that after 5 or 10 years, you are not able to use it, or you're not able to use it effectively. You're not able to get the kind of value you have gotten over 5 years ago. So these are the things that sustainable agriculture seeks to address. They want a situation whereby continuity is preached. We want to be able to use the soil, the environment in a continuous way whereby we don't need to get scared or be worried that you will not get the same amount of yield you have gotten in a particular land that you have as much as you got in the previous few years. So these are things that enhance sustainability, because if we continue to do our practices nonchalantly and we are not very careful, we get to a situation whereby we would not be able to effectively use the land and get the sort of value we need from it. So that is basically sustainable agriculture. We want to be able to use our land, our people, our resources well. And also, while we are doing this, the quality of the farmers should also increase. So not just that we are concerned about land, not just that we are concerned about the environment, but what about the people doing it? We also want quality for them. And if you practice sustainable agriculture, if you practice it over time, someone is saying they can't hear me. Please, can we all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, please, you can go on.
Oh,
It might be
okay.
the person's network.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is just basic background on sustainable agriculture, sustainable standards. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even if you are complying with a particular standard, if you are not doing it, if you are not doing it in a way that I can call using the appropriate management, you might not even know with the one you are applying, complying with. For instance, there are so many sustainable standards. The first one I listed here is organic regulations. According to the EcoSat Organic Standard, according to European Union, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, they have a program called the National Organic Program. There is also the Japanese agricultural standards. So all of these standards are organic standards. So permit me to quickly go back to this logo. You can see that in this logo, we have the USDA organic, we have the EcoSat organic. This is the JAS logo. So what I just want to point out here is that if you have been certified according to, for instance, JAS, Japanese Agricultural Standard, that will enable you to export into the Japanese market, you are not allowed to use USDA logo on your products. So you can only use the logo for which you are certified according to. You can't say that because, everything is organic regulation, that since Japan is has an organic standard, then I can also use this logo on my product, even if I'm not certified. No, that is not correct, please. You are only allowed to use the logo for which you have been certified or according to, and you are not able to sell your product as organic if you have not been certified according to these standards. It is not like countries like Nigeria where you can just say that, this is organic. You can label your product as organic even if you have not been certified. In the EU, in the US, in the Middle East, they are very strict. That is why it is called regulation. They are very strict about what can be called organic. So that is why it is important that we comply to their standards. Now, there are also other sustainable standards like the Global Good Agricultural Practices. We call that Global GAP. It is a kind of standard whereby even, for organic, I know maybe we have added before, there is no allowance for use of chemicals, but for global GAP, there can be chemicals can be used, but at recommended rates. So that is basically on global account. There's also fair trade. Fair trade is for people that are doing high drudgery works, high drudgery agricultural processes, like you are doing shea, or you are doing cashew, or you are doing cocoa. All these tree crops that involve the use of high energy, they can comply with fair trade. There's also Rainforest Alliance. I know maybe some of us have heard about UTZ before. UTZ is now, they've actually now merged with RFA to have Rainforest Alliance. It's also used for tea crops like cocoa, like coffee, and all of that. There's also Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil. That is RSPO, Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil. So for people that are into palm oil production, they can comply with this standard. And the last one from this is cotton made in Africa, that is CMIA. So you can also comply with this standard and get your product certified according to them. But before I go on, let me also point out that it is important that we know that these standards are market driven. So for instance, maybe someone does organic, maybe someone have an order for organic honey. The person can be advised to get organic certification. But for people that do not necessarily have orders, it is advisable that they get orders for which they want to supply their products before applying for certification. If you are a soya bean producer and you want to apply for organic soya bean, it is recommended, we often recommend that you either have a market, or maybe NISAS through our partnership with various off-takers, we get you a market before you apply, so that you don't just get certified and you are not able to sell. The key thing that I want us to take note here is that standards are market driven. It is based on what your market wants. Let me give us a very relatable example now. Maybe your market says, I'm in the EU, right? I want EU organic regulation or any of its equivalents. Can you get it for me? In that case, you are not supposed to go and get the one for Japan, because you see it's the same Japanese agricultural standard. The same, since it's organic, it's organic. No. If you want to do that, you must inform your buyer that, oh, this is what I want to get, or this is what I have. It is true that you want the EU, but I have the one for Japan. Can you take it in lieu of the one for EU? So as business people, I just want to reiterate this, that as much as possible, let us have the markets that we are seeking to export this product to, and after that, we can now apply for this certification. So some of the importance of sustainable standards, so that I don't take too much of our time, is increase profitable income, like I said, through access to international markets. If you have any or all of these logos, you are able to access more markets. Imagine someone has organic certification. Imagine the other person does not have. There is a limit to which the person doing conventional agriculture without any form of certification can go, especially in the international market. Let us not forget that we are in Nigeria, where unfortunately, almost everything we do is either second guessed, or people don't really trust us, unfortunately so. So if you get some extra certification, it will give your customers or your off-takers or your clients out there the assurance that yes, this has been audited, or this is in compliance with a particular sustainable standard. And by that, you're able to access more clients, you're able to access more market, and you also get paid more. Because that's one other very important aspect of a sustainable standard. if you are certified according to the market demands, the market-driven standards, you are sure that you will earn premium. Depending on the kind of market you are looking at, you earn premium on your product. So if they are selling, this is just to give an instance now, if they are selling a product, maybe 10 naira, the conventional product 10 naira, but because you have gotten sustainable standard certification, like maybe organic, you are able to sell for maybe 12 naira or 15 naira, depending on your negotiation skills and depending on the market. But one thing is certain, that the price of certified products is usually more than the price of their conventional products. And then protection of the environment and expansion of natural resources. For those of us that are very familiar with news and with happenings in the environment, you can see that through agricultural practices, some our environments are depleting. You know, some animals are going to extinction. There is global warming. We are all complaining, but through the practice of sustainability, we can help to protect the environment. Also, safe food, fiber, and feed. When a product has undergone sustainable agriculture standard certification, the consumer have that confidence of safety. The consumer will not have to be scared that, oh, what if I'm eating poison, or what if I'm eating pesticides? There is that assurance of safety. Then helps and maintains and improves the soil fertility. Then prevents farm pollution through either the regulated use of chemicals or the total abstinence from the use of chemicals. So by that, you know that your farm is not getting polluted, and also improves soil health, as well as promoting biodiversity in terms of what makes up the environment, the kind of living and non-living things that makes up the environment. So that is just briefly on sustainable standards. Like I said, I don't want to talk too much. I just want a very, as the title of this session is called Talk Series. So let's just interact. But before we do that, permit me to just round up with these food safety standards. So food safety standards are standards aside the country's regulatory requirements that contains steps and principles to ensure food consumed is safe. This session is on sustainable agriculture and food safety. We have talked briefly on sustainable agriculture. Now we want to also expand more when it comes to food safety. So when we are talking about food safety, and particularly on private food safety standards, we are talking about standard aside the regulatory requirements of the country. In Nigeria, we have NAFDAC, we have SUN. That is the mandatory regulatory requirements of Nigeria. If you want to do anything that has to do with food, you must be registered with NAFDAC, right? So, but there are also some, someone's mic is unmuted. Okay, so there are also some other food safety standards that consumers outside of the shores of Nigeria, they demand for as a way of ensuring food safety, as a way of double checking, should I say, like an extra layer, so that they would know that even though this has been registered with NAFDAC, it has also complied to some other standards. And by that, they have the assurance, they have the guarantee that the food they are consuming is safe. And this has actually been on the increase since COVID. So since COVID come, people have actually been, especially in the US, in the EU, they have been paying more attention to what they eat. So food safety, the assurance that food is acceptable for human consumption according to its intended use. Food safety means that no one should consume a food and get ill or get poisoned from it. Like an adage within this sector says, if it's not safe, then it's not food. So we are not expected to get any form of illness or any form of disruptive activity that would that would tamper with our health from eating food. But we have protocols, we have principles to follow in order that these things are actually put to place. Then let's also define some other things that are relevant to food safety in terms of toxicity. That is the capacity of a substance to produce harm or injury. So if something is toxic to our health or to our body, it can actually produce harm or injury. And hazard is the relative probability that harm will result when a substance is not used in prescribed manner and quantity. So there can be physical hazard, there can be chemical hazard, there can also be biological hazard. Physical hazard in terms of stones in our food, in terms of dry leaves, in terms of needle, in terms of maybe the metals from the grinder and all of that. Chemicals it can be in terms of oil, in terms of paint, maybe they spill on the food, or even high pesticide residue from our farm. It can actually be an hazard, because when we consume things that contain any of these hazards, they can actually harm us. They can actually be injurious to our health. And biological hazards can be bacteria, can be fungus, viruses that can lead to our health. So all of these things is very important. As we go on, we see that there are standards that help to identify, control, and manage all of these things. The first one is HACCP. That's an example of food safety standard. The full name is Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. So HACCP is a food safety standard whereby it helps to identify hazards, it helps to manage it in terms of if you are HACCP compliant, maybe you do ginger powder now. If you're HACCP compliant, the aim is that through your processes, through your operation, you are able to identify, you are able to assess, identify, and control hazards. So any form of physical, chemical, or biological hazard that can come into your operation would have been identified and controlled. So you are sure that this food you are giving into the international market or into your local market is actually safe for consumption. You are sure that there is no level of hazards that can penetrate. So that is for HACCP. So it means that if you want to penetrate into some markets might be asking you that, do you have HACCP? Is your organization HACCP compliant? Are you observing the protocols of HACCP? So even if you are doing it, if you are not certified according to it, then it might just be as good as though you are not doing it. So that is one thing to also reiterate about compliance and certification. HACCP is common in the US, in the EU, in the Middle East for people, and this is for processors. If you are doing processing, you are expected to comply with HACCP so that you can access more markets in the international space. There's also ISO 22000, and the full name is Food Safety Management System, FSMS, Food Safety Management System, ISO 22000. So it's like a more complicated form of HACCP, whereby it's much more than identifying hazard. It also goes beyond that. It goes beyond the people, the documents, and other things. But it is also a standard that is being demanded in the international market. And we saw the logo before now. There is also Global Food Safety Initiative, GAFSI, and there's also the British Retail Consortium for the British market. Now, there are also some components that they are not necessarily food safety standards, but there are also components that are important when we talk about food safety. And I listed some of them here. We have the GHP, that is the good hygienic practices. GSP, good storage practices. GAP, good agricultural practices. GWP, good warehousing practices, GMP, good manufacturing practices. So all of these components are also very important when it comes to food safety. So we are talking about the hygiene of the facility. We are talking about the hygiene of the personnel. We are talking about how you store to make sure that they are not contaminated with pests, with diseases. The good gap is good agricultural practices. How do you manage? How do you even cultivate so that the product we are bringing from the farm is not contaminated for the end consumers that will consume it? Then warehousing practices. How do you make sure that logistics between product coming in, coming out, they are clearly identified? They are labeled. They are not there is no contamination that could occur. Then good manufacturing practices. How do you ensure that for people that are into manufacturing, what are you following the proper protocols in order to manufacture your product very well? So as I round up, I would like to say something that is also very important about food safety standards. Like we initially saw with sustainable standards, food safety also increases the confidence of the consumers on food consumption. You will also get to access more markets. And also through food safety standards, there is prevention of disease and health, and there is prevention of contamination. So these things are not just important for compliance. They actually have what they do within the life of the consumer. So I think I will just draw the curtain now, and I'll allow for the talk series to continue. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Toby. I think it was very insightful, and we understand that the timing is short, so it looks like so much information at a very short time. But like we said, this is just an information session. I'm sure a lot of people would have been noting their questions down. You can also drop your questions on the chat box, but we have a time allocated for question and answer. So when we get there, we'll talk about it. But Toby, before we get there, it's also important to tell us what are the requirements for this certification generally. I know those that are interested are going to come to NISAT personally, but in the general overview, what are the requirements for those interested in getting this kind of certifications? But maybe you address that during the question and answer session. Now we move to the next, so you can stop sharing, Toby. We move to the next item on the agenda, which is basically the information session on registration for FDA, US FDA, that is United States Food and Drug Administration certification. And to take us on this is Mr. Malomo Aderibigbe Olufemi. Just a brief about him. Is a trade specialist consultant with 18 years experience across the public and private sector. He has helped to turn around moribund enterprises into profit-oriented outfits. He has worked on the USAID-funded Nigerian Expanded Export Program by providing technical assistance to client companies. His CV is very big and very huge. So I'm just going to pick it around. So he's a regular consultant with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council on FDA certification for SMEs since 2013. So one thing I can assure you all is that we have the right person in the house to deal with this, because he has decades of experience dealing with this for both small and medium and large enterprises. So I'm going to leave the floor in the next minute for Mr. Aderibigbe to take us on what are those requirements, what are those steps. We know what are the advantages for having a FDA certification as a Nigerian product. What are those opportunities for us in the international markets? And what are those things that we need to do to be able to obtain this certificate, to also include the duration, the processes. Thank you very much. So you can have the floor, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. We can hear you, so I think you can go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. We can hear you.
All right, thank you, sir. I don't have any slide to share, but I will just quickly run through some of the basic things that we need to know when it comes to having to have our FDA certification. I work for Shrep Associates as a vet, and Madam Timothy has said a little bit about what I do. I also want to thank the organizers, the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the organizers for having me in here. Two basic things. I will just be speaking to what we need to do to get our facility registered. Now, the first one I'll be talking about is DUNS. They call it DUNS number. DUNS is an acronym of Data Universal Numbering System. And this came up sometime in 2020 when all SMEs are mandatory to have a DUNS number. Well, I was many that would want to probably have the FDA facility registration. I would probably share this with them because a lot of things that are there. It gives a wider coverage to your facility, and of course, be able to do quite a few things when it comes to the US market. Now, basically, my background at work for, or I say with the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce for about 10, 11 years. I also worked with two USAID projects. So this is where all this is coming from before I branched out on my own. I also do consult for the Commonwealth in the course of doing all these and other things that relates to export to the US and other places as well. Now, let me go quickly to FDA. Now, FDA registration is about the facility itself. When I say facility, I mean the company, the factory where you're producing from. Now, that is where it's been registered under the FDA, not necessarily the product. The products are secondary, as it were. They want to be able to know. I would want to take it up from where NISAT stopped, because it has to do with the standards and the genuity of the facility, and of course, what you're doing in that facility, if it is good for human consumption. So when we talk about FDA, we're talking about the facilities, facility-based. It is the facility that is being registered, as it were. Then the products are now secondary, they come in secondary. Now, unlike our own NAFDAC here in Nigeria, if once your facility is registered with the FDA office, all the products that come out from that facility carries the same FDA number. It carries the same FDA number. Now, if before we start to do anything when it comes to FDA registration, what we do is to first inspect your facility. Then, of course, to be sure that at least we are good to go. And for those who are already NAFDAC registered, it gives them a high leverage. In fact, in some cases, we may not even have to inspect because we know that NAFDAC would have made it to go through all that is important, as it were. Now, for FDA registration, there's an agent, because it's mandatory that every facility must have to have an agent on the US side who will do the needful when it comes to taking your products, that is your off-taker, as it were, probably maybe a broker, and whoever would stand in as your agent. So we have an agent that works with us, on agreement basis, who is in the US, who does the needful when it comes to having to sign off on the registration. Now, like I said earlier on, the number issued for FDA is different from the one that will be issued for the DUNS. The DUNS is a 9-digit number. The FDA is about 11-digit number. But they are all important as far as the exporting into the US market is concerned. Now, for the DUNS, you may not have to put that on your labels. But for the FDA, like I also tell some of my clients, you may and you may not. So the choice is actually yours, because what is important before your product get to the US market is that there has to be a prior notice that must be made to the US FDA office before your products hit the US, any of the US port, land border or wherever, or the air. There must be a prior notice that has to be done. If that is not done, except if your products are probably samples, even at times if they are samples, we always tell our clients, please do the prior notice. So we do all that for our clients anyway, because we manage our clients. Now we tell them, please, let's do a prior notice, because you never can say who will be at the other end where your products will land. And in most cases, this has always been very helpful. Now, by the time you do your what do you call it now? Your FDA, your prior notice, once it is done, it is assumed that it is 80–90% that there's nothing to hide as far as the Global Food Safety Initiative standard is required. Yeah, there's the hazard that is hazard-free, that you don't have anything to hide, then of course it goes into the market as it were. Now, there are times that after you've done your FDA registration, there would be updates that will be required. Now, these updates, they will send you mails that, look, you need to do an update. That's for in case you have some new products you have added to your product line, then this have to be updated. Or peradventure, you have left where you've changed place. And again, I would want to point out here that if for any reason, if you have changed where your facility, it's important you update that on the system, because by the time you'll be doing your prior notice, you will discover that you may not be able to do it because your address where your facility is has changed. So it is very, very important that this is done. So basically speaking, part of the things that are requirements that are required for registration is one, your what do you call it now? Your company, your facility has to be fully registered. That's one. Then number two, you must have your NAFDAC. Or you must have your NAFDAC as much as possible, because at times I always ask my clients, though in the past, I have clients who have exported after inspecting their facility, like so it's when they now come back, they now begin to do their NAFDAC registration. I always tell them it's important on this end. Now, most importantly, again, you've got to be registered with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Because I've had a lot of clients who ask me, okay, I do this, I do FDA, I do everything. How do I get market for my product? I tell them, like in the past, after I left USAID, based on the contacts I have in the US, I usually give such contacts to my clients. But I discovered that in the past, I've gotten my fingers burnt so many times. And I'm a kind of person who wants to sleep and sleep well, not have issues. They send products, they don't have their money sent back to them and stuff like that. So I always tell them, if your product is good, please get registered with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. And if I have anybody who wants your product from the US end, please let there be an agreement. And if possible, let there be an NEPC staff who would also be there to do the needful as it was, so that if in any case anything goes wrong, they will be there to defend you and to ensure that your money comes back to you. So I would want to probably just stop here. If there are any other questions, I will entertain them before the session runs out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adelibigbe. That's very insightful. straight to the point on things that we need to do and preparation. So I think is the next item on the agenda is question and answer. And we've actually scheduled like 20 minutes for that. But if we could exhaust the 20 minutes that we go, that would be good. And if we could need more, we might need permission from our speakers if they are still available for that. But currently, if you want to ask a question, if you have a question for any of them, either from the NISAT hand or from for the FDA registration, you can type in your question in the chat box. But if you feel more comfortable to talk, you can just hit the reactions by raising up your hand. Then that way we can call your name to unmute yourself. So we'll start with some questions I think I spotted on the chat box. Someone was asking, I think this will go to NISAT. What certifications do series require for import into Japan? What certifications do series require for imports into Japan?
Okay.
Toby, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Tinoke. Thank you for the very good work you are doing. So cereals, it's like I mentioned during my session, these standards, what we usually advise is the market first. But if I can just speak generically now, if the person is looking, if the operator is looking to comply with an organic standard, then it will be the Japanese agricultural standard. But also the person didn't mention whether the cereal is in raw form or in processed form. So if it's in raw form, the organic can also work for both raw and processed. But if the cereal will be processed into maybe powder or what have you, then we can talk about HACCP and other food safety standards.
Okay, thank you, Toby. I hope that answers the question. If not, you can let us know. Then someone is asking for the office address of NISAT. So can you please drop that on the chat box for anyone that will need it, how they can reach NISAT? Okay. Mohammed, my Malari from Kano, thank you for joining. Okay, the link, as regards the link, we are streaming this live on YouTube. So we will definitely send a follow-up mail to everyone that registered via the registration link. So you can always get back to this information session on YouTube anytime at your own convenience. Our facility is in Anambra. In Anambra, it's accredited. That's good. Congratulations. There's a question on cost here. I'm sure when it comes to cost, it varies. I don't know if I'm saying the truth, both for NISAT and FDA. So any of you can add to what I'm saying. I think the cost varies. So there might not be a major cost because starting with facility, going there to check the facility might cost more than some others. So contact of NISAT, the address of NISAT has just been dropped in the chat box. So you can always get that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. It was very insightful. So the NISAT, you mentioned that the standardization is also required by the farmers. Is there any platform you follow up the process from the farm to the processing before export? For NISAT, I don't know, maybe you understand that, but I can see the MD of NISAT is raising up her hands. So maybe I will just call her to attend to that and also any other information she wants to share.
Thank you, Tinuke, and good afternoon, everybody. Great work ACCI is doing, and thank you to the FDA consultant. I just wanted to lend my voice to what my colleague, Mr. Toby Raji, had answered for the person who was requesting to know what the requirement would be to be able to export grain to Japan. So for the Japanese market, they are very strict, maybe even stricter than the European market. They are strict as it relates to pesticide residue. So please, if you are exporting or you are hoping to export product to the Japanese market, please bear in mind that you have to do pesticide residue or chemical residue tests to ensure that the chemical residue is almost non-existent. So what it therefore means is that you would have to maybe produce it organically or natural, and then that reduces the risk of having the product rejected when it gets to the destination country if you are exporting to the Japanese market. Nigeria already has problem with the Japanese market because of pesticide residue, which is one of the things that the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, in collaboration with the Department of Trade under the Ministry of Trade and Investment, and some other stakeholders, we are part of the stakeholders, are trying to work on so that they don't ban grains coming from Nigeria, especially for sesame seed. So if you are please exporting to the US, to Japan, ensure that there is some sort of traceability, number one, that you put together a traceability system. What it therefore means is that from the primary production, where the farmers are producing the product, up until the processing, handling, the warehousing, storage, everything, you are able to show that you are in control or you are aware. There is a transparent traceability system along the value chain. And also, please ensure that you carry out a test on pesticide residue before exporting to Japan. So what it therefore means is that if you are complying, for instance, with the organic protocol, even if you don't get the certification, then that is okay. And then if you are able to, at the processing level, comply with HACCP, that would be very fantastic, because that means that you've reduced your risk almost to the barest minimum. And then for the second question that was asked, on how we are able to trace. So for every certification that you see, you require the traceability system. So traceability system is the bedrock for every certification, be it certification for sustainable standard like the organic, the global GAP, the Rainforest Alliance standard and all, or the food safety standards like the ISO 22000, HACCP, you require traceability. So you require to know where the farmers are, what is happening at the primary level, because that gives the integrity that is required for your product. If you are, for instance, processing or you are selling semi-processed product or even raw material into the international market. So for us in the certification industry, we want to be able to see that you are in control or you are aware of what is going on at the primary level. So we follow up from the primary. So most of these standards you find starts from the primary level up until processing, handling, trading, and export. I hope that answers the question, but if it doesn't, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you. So I hope that answered that. If it doesn't, you can send the follow-up message.
Thank you very much. It answered my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Umar Batsa Garawa, your hands have been up.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm just following up on HACCP and how it's being seen globally. We've been discussing over it, and I just want to ask a quick question about how it's being recognized. I've seen that respective accreditation bodies in different countries, like UKAS in the UK, like DAKKS in Germany, and MFTS in South Korea, sometimes have to accredit a certification body before even the HACCP that they've attested to as a third party is acknowledged. So what's the so is NISAT recognized as a certification body for HACCP in all the jurisdictions I've mentioned, because they are the ones we're interested in. UK, Germany, and South Korea.
Okay, so let me answer that question quickly. So for HACCP, there is no accreditation in quotes. What happens is that for HACCP, countries like the US, for instance, under the Food Safety Modernization Act, within the Food Safety Modernization Act is a program called the Foreign Suppliers Verification Program that insists that even if you have been registered with FDA, you have to comply with all the HACCP principles. So the HACCP is basically a principle for food safety that one has to comply with. But most of the time, buyers want to see a proof of compliance, and the proof of compliance would be the certificate that you would issue, that is issued by a third party as proof of compliance. If you want to export to Europe also, you would also require it, because from the new EU regulation, they have also improved and made their food safety requirement stricter to insist that processed products coming into the EU must also have complied with the HACCP protocol or the HACCP principles. And then most of the time, the buyers again would be requiring the certificate. And as for whether NISAT already has its own accreditation that is recognized by these bodies, NISAT does not have the accreditation. We are yet to get our own accreditation. But what we have done, knowing that we would require a lot of client base before we would launch into having our own accreditation, we are working in collaboration with a certification body that has the accreditation. So what we do in NISAT is that we have within NISAT qualified auditors and inspectors, the HACCP, ISO 22000, and other food safety, both food safety and sustainable standard certification that our partners are able to provide. So the partners own the accreditation. We have the auditors, qualified auditors and inspectors for various scopes. We carry out the audit and inspection, and the certification body, being the owners of the accreditation, issue the certificate. So the certificate will be in the name, the certificate issued is actually issued from the CB. That's the certification body that owns the accreditation. And that's what we've been doing for the past 4 years. And we have been able to certify a lot of clients for HACCP who are selling their products in the US, in the EU, and other parts of the world. In fact, one of them won the best tea in the UK last year. And those are our referrals, and we can share with you some of the referrals and you can find out for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annabelle. Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Derrick, would you like to say something on the FDA question as regards cost? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the cost of registration for us is a one-off payment of $500, which includes the cost of our agent in the US and, of course, our own level of efforts too.
Okay, so $500.
Yes.
Irrespective of the facility, location of the facility.
Well, all that is built in somehow because we don't, like what we usually tell our clients, we want to make sure at least if we cannot export, let's try and see how we can help our people to be able to become exporters into these markets. And coupled with the fact that we have been working with NEPC for a long time, so we want to make sure that, look, we do the needful to see our people become exporters.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is very fantastic. So for those who have been curious about what it takes as regards cost registering for FDA certification, so it's just $500 only. Then there's another question here. Both speakers talked about getting a ready market. My question is, how do we assess buyers in both the US and Canadian markets as a startup? How do I get a ready market? Is there any link to getting ready buyers in these countries?
Okay,
Well,
so maybe I would go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so for the past 3 years, part of what we have tried to do to be able to promote certification in Nigeria, because of course, international compliance to international standard is relatively new in Nigeria today, and even certification is even more so new for people who are in the food sector or in the agri sector generally. Part of what we have done to be able to stimulate the market is to get off-takers who are willing to off-take products. So for instance, in the US, we have an off-taker who has about 100 off-takers, 100 stalls that he has signed up with to give them products. So what we do is that we verify you comply with the standards, we onboard you to this guy or to this company, and then the company the company directly connects you through their platform to off-takers. We also have other off-takers none in Canada as we speak, but in the US, yes, we do have. But when we have products, part of what we also do is that we attend international conferences, not for our sake, but for the sake of producers who will be coming under our umbrella or requiring our certification, so that we help to give them access to Nigeria. There's really no incentive for you to comply. It is the international market that gives you that incentive. And because we want to continually be in business, and if you grow, we are also growing, we try as much as possible to give you markets that will now help you to grow, so that in so doing, we also as NISAT will be growing. So yes, we are able to get you markets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adelugbe, you can have the floor now. Hello, Mr. Adelugbe, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, all right, good. I just said I would want to take it up from where she stopped. Going forward, there are a lot of people who would want a product on that side of the divide. I'm talking about US in particular. Now, some people on this platform that I know, I've just looked at the people that are on this platform. Some of them actually are having, serious problems, issues, having their funds repatriated back to them. And there are quite a few that I'm handling right now, though I was not the architect of having to send their products to the US market. But that's why I don't know why I feel a lot comfortable if a Nigerian agency is involved. Because I think that's very, very critical. Now, apart from them being involved, they also would like to, at least at some point, because for them is a win-win situation, they would need to write some stories about some of the companies that have helped to export their products into the US market. And that is where they come in. That's where they get most of their funding. Now, like I said earlier on, a lot of these people there, I'm sorry to say, they taught our people 419. They know you cannot jump on the plane overnight and come over there to retrieve your products or your money or what have you. So they latch on that, and they don't send your money. I'll just take one example. When I was with the NIP, on the NIP project with the USAID, I was the B2B contact person. Now, knowing fully well that this was a USAID project here in Nigeria, we sent quite a few products to some people there who needed this product. And you couldn't believe it. The money never came, the product never came, until when some of these people were put on an expo somewhere in Maryland. When the guy got to this guy's place, oh, guy, what's happening? Where's my money? Where's my product? The product was just put in his store, in his garage there. He did not do anything about it. And this was still a government-to-government thing that was arranged. not to talk of when it's an individual. Now, I have my reservations anyway, but it's not as if to say all is not, you can't have some that will fly. Some will fly. But to be on the safer side, I would always ask that they have to let whoever wants to do this get the Nigerian Sport Promotion Council involved, or NIPC involved, so that at least there will be an agreement. And I always tell my people, look, if anybody wants your product, if it's that good they want it, let them send you at least 60-70%, of the product. Then of course you send the product to them. So for me, this is my take. I'm not saying the other way is not good, or having somebody there who have about, a chain store receiving your product. Oh yeah, fine. Some people have done it and it is beautiful and it is good. But we have a lot of our products here that are quite good and quite fine, that can compete favorably in the international market. And for some reasons, some people just look at it and just take it and don't get your money back to you. So sorry, this is just my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And there are two sides to a coin. So the basic is that we look at it, and something that is paramount is that either way you are going through this, it's very important that there is a clear agreement between you, the seller, and the buyer. And most importantly, should be binding by the law. Most people doesn't want to fall on the bad side of the law. So once you have, if you want to say, my lawyer is going to look into this, it has to be signed by my lawyer. So someone that is ready to go the other way negatively might have a rethink. So thank you very much for that. So I don't have anyone raising up their hands, and coincidentally, we have also exhausted more than the time allocated for question and answer. There are still some questions coming in here, but my question is on food safety. Which body controls and check the quality of food? I think this has been answered by NISAT. Being sold in the market, most of these sellers use harmful pesticides and most times rat killers and snipers on their grains, like beans, corn, wheat, and rice, while the garri they sell is exposed to these harmful chemicals. Please, I want to ask, who checks and monitors these food sellers in the market? Oh, thank you. So I guess this has to go to government agencies. These are responsibilities of government agencies for check and balancing and control of food in the market. Our target mostly for this discussion is based on people that want to expand into the international market. That's why before your products could enter into the international market, you must go through all this certification process to ensure that it is free of any form of harmful content, especially as Toby has illustrated in his presentation earlier on. Thank you very much. So if we don't have any other question, we are going to post the link here. The admin, please, can you post the link here before we end this call for anyone that is interested in going through any of this certification process. So there is a section there for you to indicate which of this process do you want to have more information, or you are interested in commencing the certification process. So the link is going to come in the chat box now. We'll also send it to you. For those that are registered with their email, we'll also send it to you via email so that we can collate the people that are interested in going through this process, either for organic certification, the food standards, or for the FDA certification. So the link has just been posted on so there's a question on any cost to the onboard of the off-taker. So I think these are questions that we also need to pick up with NISAT after this. You can fill in the Google form and put in there what you really want. Then we can sort the questions and the interest to whoever is applicable. So without any more question from NISAT, any closing remarks? Mr. Aderibibe, any closing remarks?
Well, for me, I want to appreciate and thank Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry for having me on this program. And I want to thank everybody that participated. If you want further questions, there are a lot of things, maybe by the time you're really interested in having to do this, then I think ACCI would give you, will give our contact, and then of course we can talk more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking out time to do this. From NISAT, any closing remarks?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Tinuke. Thank you, the HCCI team. Thank you, participants. So we are sincerely thankful of the opportunity to be here, and we look forward to having a very fruitful collaboration with the people we have met here so far. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to thank everyone for joining in on this call, and I hope it's worth it. We've been able to pick one or two things along the line and to also promote our activities. In collaboration with NISAT, the Best Center is going to have a training soon. I can't figure the date now, but we're having a 2 days training on agricultural clinic. NISAT, can you tell us more about the training?
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, the clinic is more. Okay, Victor, would you want to go?
No, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Okay, so the clinic will be like an extended version of this very brief session we have had. So at the clinic, we would get to talk more about certification, about the needs in details. We'll get to talk more about where the markets are, the kind of markets that we have currently, because we have some orders currently. So we get to interact more based on the importance of compliance, based on the requirements, the certification requirements in international markets, as it regards to agricultural standards, as regards to food processing for our processors. So that's just the brief information. I think more information can be found on the flyer.
Okay, so quickly adding to what Mr. Toby said, my name is Victor with the projects department at NISAT. The 2-day agricultural clinic is very, very practical. It's a very practical session for all participants that would want to attend, and that's largely due to some of the projects we have, currently on ground right now. We have some projects that will span into the next 5 years, and we're currently aggregating producers that can cultivate organic sesame seed, soybean, turmeric, ginger. That, of course, that list keeps expanding because we have some off-takers, some intentional off-takers coming in, and there are specific standards they're looking at. So at this agricultural clinic, part of the things we'll be doing would be to onboard eligible producers. So please stay on the lookout for our publicity materials as to when we announce the dates of this clinic. It's very important you're there, especially if you're into large-scale production. We're talking 20 hectares, 50 hectares. If you have 5,000 hectares, we bring you on board. We connect you. The off-takers are there. They're willing agricultural projects. But at the agricultural clinic, we know how to go about the funding and the entire chain. So it's something you really need to look out for. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. So on the last note, I've been saying thank you since. Finally, we have to go. It was nice having everyone on the call, and we look forward to more discussions and collaboration as regards this and other activities. You can look up the Best Center on our social media handles, on our website, HCCI Best Center. The social media handles too are the same, HCCI Best Centers. Like, follow. So we have a lot of activities that we hold. Many free, some paid for, a lot of information session that we share out there. So it would be nice for you to follow us on our handles so you don't miss out of anyone that will be relevant to you or any of your close ones. So I would like to say on this note that we are bringing this call to an end, and thank you for participating in this best talk. We wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tinuke.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you at the clinic.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, God bless you, Tunika.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Okay.